Happy Thursday, everybody. I can hear the radio coming through this microphone for whatever reason. It's fine. I was going to use my nice little wide angle guy for this. It keeps sliding off my new phone because apparently there's not enough space. Hello, Doug. To make that work. So, just doing it like we can possibly maybe get it done without all this stuff. Today, I don't have much going on, to be real honest. I saw this quiz, and I love internet quizzes a lot. My friend Danica posted it about high school. And since, I guess this would have been, 99 would have been my 20-year reunion that we missed, I figured it'd be fun to do this. And we didn't miss it for, like, any good reason or anyone's fault. It was just that when you go to organize a high school reunion on Facebook, I think you understand the redundancy of even having a Facebook or a high school reunion in the first place, because all you have to do is go to that group chat, and then you automatically know what everyone's doing. I think it would be good to have a, memoriam, is that what it is? For all the gone people who never were on Facebook. But otherwise, I don't know. I'm kind of in touch with everybody I want to be in touch with. And if I'm not, you know where to find me. So let's do it. Let's just jump straight into internet time. I used to love doing these quizzes, and there was a couple of videos I did where I really did them out hard. With video effects and, I don't know, text on screen and whatever. But we're just going to do this like we do everything in 2020, which is lazy. So this is called Think About Your Senior Year in High School. I don't have to think a whole lot about it, but I do think about it from time to time. So I was class of 99, which I think people thought was fun. Played that Prince song a lot when we were graduating, but I don't think ultimately it really didn't matter. Let's do it. Question number 1. Did you marry your high school sweetheart? Respectfully, I did not. I did not marry any of them. The ones I wanted to and didn't want to, and any of them. I stayed unmarried, thankfully. No disrespect to anybody who got married to their high school sweetheart. I just, you're never an actual adult until you're 30. So why on earth, and I say this as someone who's divorced, why on earth would you want to try to make something permanent out of an extremely impermanent part of your life? I think younger kids have figured this out more than we did, Gen X, Gen Y, millennial people. Parents, boomers, and all that, how much fun religion plays into your ability to have a normal sexual relationship with someone when you're full of hormones is really weird. It's you got to be in love, which I think is still a good metric for that, but you don't think you have to be married. I don't think you have to decide that you want to just have kids. That's the only way you can have body time with people. So again, I think it's a boomer hangover thing from my parents' generation. Where you're a bad person if you have sex before you get married. So yeah, but to shout out to all my high school girlfriends, you guys were great. I was a dick. You're so glad you didn't marry me back then. I'm glad you didn't, for you and for everyone. Question number 2? What type of car did you drive? I drove a silver 1994 Ford Probe GT. Which was an insane car. It looked like a Silver Hawk. When you got into kids shouldn't have cars like that either. When you get into it, it's like a cockpit, and the car was this unholy child of Mazda and Ford trying to have a baby. What's up, Josh? Hello, Alexia. And it ultimately just never worked. I think within months after me having it, not even months, weeks, the transmission fell out. That was cool. And then what else happened with that car? You just opened the hood up and it just looked like you took an engine and you just wrapped it in wire and then slam dunked it into the hood of the car. Hello, John. And with saying that, I still love that car very much. And it pops up occasionally on Facebook Marketplace and on eBay and whatever else. And I think sometimes, oh no, I think I broke my light. I think sometimes about buying that car again because it's dirt cheap. But then I think about all the problems I had with that car when it was sort of new, and man, yeah, I would die if I got that now. Hey guys, we're about to have our first guest on the show tonight. Hello, Kitten. Kitty's just walking with casual disregard to everything that's on this table, including electronics, cameras, and lights. You wanna come in? You come say hi? Stepping on my iPad. Oh, Kitten. All right. Talked about the Ford Probe. That car was great until a trucker almost killed me driving it. And then it was economically totaled, and we gave it a Viking funeral and beat it to death before we sent it to the scrapyard. Rest in peace, Ford Probe. What kind of job did you have? I had 2 jobs in high school. The first one, wonderful lady, Gloria, gave me me and Carter a job at Fox as janitors. I don't think we actually had a job there. She just found stuff for us to do because she's wonderful, and we were aimless teenagers. What we did is we cleaned the station after hours, and we would take all the money we made and go rent movies from King Video and get takeout from Szechuan. That was it. It was all we used our money on from that job. It was terrible and hilarious, but it was great. And then I got a job at the Record Exchange, and I was proudly the youngest employee they ever hired at the Record Exchange. However, because I was young and dumb, and all the reasons why my high school girlfriend shouldn't have married me, they never hired anyone as young as me again because it was a terrible mistake. I was just a cocky dickhead with a complicated schedule, and so that was that. But I worked at the Record Exchange, I don't know, almost 5 years maybe. And I think I spent all the money I made at the Record Exchange at the Record Exchange. God bless that wonderful store. Rest in peace, Record Exchange. Record Exchange, as you may or may not know or remember, went from being kind of a big thing, when the internet started to take over, to being a much smaller thing, and then it collapsed and was reborn several times as Plan 9, and then ultimately the wonderful spiritual successor is Jamie's Bazaar, which still for the longest time had the same bins that were from the Record Exchange that I worked in when I was a youth. So yeah, if you ever need vinyl, CDs, tapes, whatever, find where the Bazaar is doing their next pop-up and go buy it, because that is how we keep the memory of the Record Exchange alive. All right, what next? Where did I live? Roanoke, Virginia. Were you popular? I do not think I was popular in the way that kids who played sports or had their lives together or were typically nice people were popular. I was known. People knew who I was. I got most artistic in high school, and I guess you had to vote on that. So that meant something, I suppose, in terms of notoriety, whether it was good or bad. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like by high school, me and the majority of people I hung out with, like those thoughts, whether they were, I think there's a time where you dabble with popularity because every young teenage kid especially does that. It matters to them for some reason. And then by high school, you're like, well, I'm well on my way to being adolescent part 2, where we don't care about those things. And we genuinely don't care about those things. Like, it's not, not where it's like, it's cool not to care about those things. We're just like, I'm just too busy having fun with my friends to worry about that crap. So that's what happened with that. And there's that great song Popular by Nada Surf, if you want to dwell on the popular question any longer. I was not head of my class either. Were you in choir or band? I was not in choir or band. I took music theory, I think, for 2 years in high school with Barry Tucker, who I saw at Kroger the other day. He sort of remembered me. And I always felt like that class was super cool-ish. We had these really great old Macintosh computers that ran, I want to say it was called Sibelius. No, it wasn't Sibelius. It was, Sibelius was the Sound Blaster kind of MIDI program. But anyways, it was a notation kind of software where you would write scores for things. And kids, God bless them, didn't understand MIDI. And at that time, I was getting into all that stuff. And so I would write these like multi-channel compositions using different instruments and whatever on this very basic system. And by my second year, I had really fleshed out, like I had Cakewalk and I was doing the whole keyboard computer thing, and it just didn't seem fair, even though I was probably not the best writer in that class. I definitely had the best sounding stuff. Hello, Jessica. Hello, Jane. It was, it just, again, I remember playing one of my things and one of the kids asking how they make their stuff sound like that. It was an unfair leg up. The other thing I remember about that class is, well, two great things. One was we had to take the ASVAB test, and this totally bit me in the ass. ASVAB test, I don't know if kids have to take them anymore or if anyone else remembers them, they are these like secret IQ aptitude tests that the military gives you just before you turn 18 that everyone at the time in school had to take. And so I hated that idea. I had already taken a series. I mean, if you went to any kind of public school, you're taking a series of secret IQ tests your entire lives, whether the Iowa test or any kind of aptitude test or whatever. So the military now is giving me this test, and I'm not a fan of the military. I love the troops and all that stuff. But and I have a bunch of really good friends in the military. But when you're a brash, like 17, 18-year-old who doesn't give a shit about anything, man, being like, you're going to have to sit and take this test, and I was like, had a lot of F words about that. So what I did, instead of like really going hard and messing like the whole thing up, I instead worked really hard on it, and I ignored all the time limits. So like I answered every question. I used a calculator. I cheated on the ASVAB test. Cheated hard. And so the joke was ultimately on me. Oh, and the reason I'm telling the whole ASVAB test story is because we had to take it in music theory. The joke ultimately was on me because when you do really well on those tests and you're about to turn 18, recruiters start like banging on your door night and day and calling you like the summer after you graduate from college, being like, hey, have you ever thought about the Navy? Have you ever thought about the Air Force? And I'm like, no, I have not, and I will not. But I appreciate your call, and please leave me alone. But they don't, because they're recruiters, and it's their job to get the best and the brightest if they can. Ultimately, I remember having to just finally tell these people who were showing up at my house, 9 in the morning, again, after I'd been up till 6 in the morning at Scott's house the night before, that I cheated on that test. And that I was highly attention deficit. I was on medication for it. I'd broken a number of bones, suffered a number of concussions and whatever else. And then therefore, probably was not a good candidate for any of their officer training schools or anything they were trying to incentivize me with by joining the military. And every branch of the military respected that with the exception of the Marines. And when I told the people from the Marines that I had cheated on the test, the guy like paused for a second and was just like, well, we think that shows initiative and we'd like to offer you the same, thing anyways. And I was just like, no, thank you. I can't. So that was one thing about music theory. The other thing was that Barry Tucker, the guy who was the band director and taught music theory with another guy named Mr. Bentley, who I think I saw in the parking lot of Our Daily Bread the other day, which made me happy. He had this like Yamaha DX7, maybe. It was like a basic sequencing keyboard from like the late, it's an FM synthesis for sure, but it was this basic like sequencing keyboard from probably the late 80s that they used in the class and whatever else. And Mr. Tucker came in one day, was talking to us about like how he gotten like super frustrated over something or another and wrote this song. And I was just like, I was all in. I was like, this is amazing. Everything about this sounds great. Why don't more people do this? And I think that was also another like kick in my butt to make more computer music. Although that didn't last very long. Did I ever get suspended? No, I never got suspended from high school. I got close a few times. I spent a lot of time in in ISD, which was in school detention or suspension in other schools, or ISS, I guess is what they call it. That was a lot of fun. There was a lot of times that I was in there for no good reason, and there was times that I should have been there that I wasn't in there, and then there was other times that I requested to be in there, and they were just said, sorry, buddy, you're not going to ISD. One time, I'm going to leave the gentleman's name out of this. There was a senior assembly last year that I did not want to go to. My friend did not want to go to. And keep in mind, this is right after Columbine. Columbine has happened. I've gotten in trouble for making bomb jokes more than once at this point in high school. And we were walking into the senior assembly, and we see one of our teachers, and we're like, "Can we please have to go to this? Can we do anything? Can we go to ISD? Can we just, can we do anything besides see the people who I'm not really excited about going to the reunion with, saying it's so hard to say goodbye, like everyone cares suddenly." And they were like, "No, you have to go." And my friend literally says, "I have a gun." And they're like, "Get in there." What if he did have a gun? And that's the thing. Like, we joke about this often, which is like, had he had a gun, then they would have been like, "Well, we had no idea," except he told you. But then also, he didn't have a gun. But we were just so dumbfounded by the fact that he said that, and they still made us go, that we just ended up going. All right. If you could, would you go back? Yeah, I'd probably go back for fun. Everything's fun in retrospect. Or when you can do anything over, you go back to the future. I would get in a lot more fights for sure. There are a lot of bad people. You look back at this, we talk about toxic masculinity and all these other terms that we didn't have back then for the ways people behaved and were bad. And some of them we just sort of excuse. Some were just boys being boys or girls being, catty about whatever. But the truth is, there were some really bad people who went to my high school. And I'm shocked that some of them aren't serial killers or are stars of they probably are. They probably live in their own version of American Psycho. But there's one kid, again, who I don't like using people's names callously like that, but there's one kid who knows who he was, who picked on a disabled kid every day in homeroom and convinced him that this other girl in our class had a crush on him and was awful to this special needs kid. And if I could go back, I would mercilessly beat the crap out of that kid. And because that's the other thing, when you're that age, I got into some fights, but I was still kind of afraid of fighting. As an adult, if I could go back, I would rearrange that kid's face. And I know that sounds like I'm the bad guy now, but again, it's better to be, I think, an anti-hero than the kid who sits around and spends his time in homeroom making fun of a kid with special needs and really gaslighting him about another girl in our grade liking him, because then it becomes twofold. You're terrorizing another kid because you're an awful person. So yeah, I hope that kid's in hell now. Not that special needs kid, but the mean kid. So that's what I'd do if I went back. Do I still talk to the person I went to prom with? On occasion. We're in the same town, so we cross paths every now and then. She's a super sweet person, despite me very drunk later after high school, saying some very unkind and disrespectful things out of sheer blackoutness and just problematic boy behavior, when you don't know how to deal with your emotions correctly, because I don't know, a friend died and you drank too much whiskey. So, yes, thankfully we still do talk. She pops up in the paper every now and then because she's a great costume designer, wins some awards every now and then. And so if I see him, I'll send her a picture and we'll chat for a little bit. Did I ever skip school? Yes, I did. But it wasn't like I skipped school hey, let's go skip school and break out some windows of whatever. I wasn't really ever doing anything nefarious. It would be if there was a band in Richmond playing that I wanted to see, we would go see that band in Richmond. And I really, honest to God, thought of it as a sort of alternative form of education, if that makes sense. And I think it's fair. I was doing adult things as I was becoming an adult and figuring out how to navigate the world in a way in which I don't think high school actually prepares you for. I think in a lot of ways high school is great, but you remember how we all had to do the presidential fitness test, or there was all these different ways that you could get a diploma which actually didn't matter. I mean, and I'm not going to say that you shouldn't try hard in high school, But at the same time, I just decided I wasn't going to take the SATs. Like, I just wasn't interested in taking the SATs. It seemed like really stressful and really like dumb. So I didn't take the SATs. And I decided I was going to go to community college. And I went to community college for a couple years. And then I worked at Disney. And then I got a job at I got accepted into a super nice college that I don't know if I would have gotten into right after high school. But that kind of whole like career track where people are like, you have to do very good on your SATs, and you have to get straight A's, and you have to join the Key Club, and you have to do all this. Like, that's good. That's good for character building. And I agree. Some people totally need to do that, especially if you're like a sociopath who like picks on, special needs kids in homeroom. But that just wasn't what I did. And I mean, maybe I'm not successful as I could be now because I didn't take the SATs or do the proper career track that they lay out for you in high school. But I don't know. It just seemed like, again, skipping school was one of those things where like I would end up doing something that I felt in some way, whether it was true or not, was more beneficial. I would go downtown and take photographs. I would go to other cities and see friends. But inevitably, every year of high school, I mean, probably starting in 9th grade, honestly, I would get one of those letters, or we would get one of those letters in my house that was like, "What's up, Jarrell? What's up, Jacqueline?" That was like, that's not what the letter said, because I didn't know you guys in high school. I wish I did. You're very cool people. But I would get a letter from the county every year being like, if you miss one more day of school, if you just miss one more day, you're going to court. We're going to take you to court. We're going to take your parents to court. And inevitably, I would miss more days, but I guess, I don't know, not as much. So I guess they called it even. Did I go to all the football games? No, I did not go to a single of all the football games. I don't know. I didn't care about football then. I still don't care about football. I'm sorry. I know football is a very important thing for a lot of people. It just seems like all sports are mock war, right? And I like chess, and I think baseball felt more like chess to me in terms of strategy. I'm sure there's a ton in football too. I'm not trying to say one sport's better than the other, but if we're going to play mock war, I think the time I just lost all interest in all sports was when it was like, why don't we just do true war where people just fight each other? And that's much more exciting. I think I wouldn't say it's a much more real sport, but at least girls can do that. We never had a girl football team, or we had girls in our football team, so take that, football. So yeah, I went to none games. I went to some in junior high because you felt like you had to. It was like going to dances and things like that. What was your favorite subject? My favorite subject, definitely, easily, I could say, was art. I had the good fortune of having Mrs. Parker in junior high, who was a wonderful and very supportive teacher, who knew how to create guidelines for your kind of raw talent or whatever you wanted to do. So it was like, yeah, be free range, but be free range in this way, using plaster Paris to get these kind of results. And then in high school, I had the lovely and extremely talented Sandy D'Alessandro. Rest in peace, Miss D'Alessandro. Sandy was one of those rare circumstances where she was as good of a teacher, and I'm not saying this because she's passed, but she was one of the rare circumstances where the teacher was as talented and had the technical chops of an artist as well as those of a teacher. And so I learned a lot in her class. I think I took every single art class I could from her, and including I took summer gym classes one year just so I could take more art classes. And then did AP art. It was fun. And, again, I'm probably where I am today because of some of that. High school. Do you still have your yearbook? I do, but high school yearbooks mattered. And again, it's one of those things we're talking about, like junior high, where you have to get like everybody to sign your yearbook. By high school, I just bought it so that I would have it. It's somewhere. It doesn't have a lot of extremely like funny and offensive things in it, like my junior high yearbooks do. But yeah, I got it somewhere. Did you follow your original career path as someone who works for himself? Does freelance and is kind of unemployed right now? Yeah, I guess so. I never had a career path. I just did what felt right, and I still do that a lot. And luckily I've been able to make that work. So maybe I did follow the same career path. Oh, favorite teacher. I mean, obviously I mentioned Miss Del Sandro, but there were I had a lot of extremely important and very meaningful teachers in high school. That's sort of the ultimate balance of the universe when you're in high school, is that on one hand you have all these stereotypically bad teachers and principals and vice principals who hate you and want to kill you just because you're alive, I guess. I had this teacher, and I don't mind, or principal, I don't mind using his name. His name is Mr. Dowdy, who just hated me. And, I did some stuff in high school that wasn't like the best, but I definitely wasn't as awful as I think he thought I was. And in a lot of ways, I think, again, those really negative experiences where you would do things like, where I would get, speaking of in-school detention, I would get ISD for having a nonchalant attitude. I think we're counterbalanced with wonderful teachers like Gail Price. I don't know if Facebook can just tag Gail Price right now, but Mrs. Price, by far, was one of the most influential people, I would dare say, in my young life, if not just overall. And the aforementioned getting ISD for having a nonchalant attitude, they send out little notes to all your teachers saying, Will is in ISD today, and round up his work and send it to him. And so she did, but more so, she came and she brought me a copy of Catcher in the Rye, and was like, listen, you don't have to do any of your work. If you need to get out of ISD and just take a break or whatever, let me know. Enjoy this book. That's really all, this week you're going to be in ISD or whatever. And what you do is just read this book, and you can tell me about it later, and how you liked it and what you thought and whatever, and that we'll just call it even. And she was that kind of lady. She didn't take any crap from anybody, and she was also super nice, and that's a hard balance when you're any kind of teacher, but especially a high school teacher. So wonderful lady. Who else was real good? Hello, Lisa. Hello, Jason. Who else was great in high school? Sadly, I can't remember their names. I had a really great biology duo of teachers who just allowed me to do whatever. Hello, Robert. I had to do a project on meiosis one time, so I made a 45-minute video, which I think about 30 seconds of it was about meiosis. But my teacher allowed me to show the whole thing just because. And that was great. That just, and that was one of those things too. It's very formative. You don't think about it, but it was the first time I'd made something with video where I had an audience. And again, had that teacher not been so cool, that wouldn't have happened, and I wouldn't have had that sort of thought or experience. So a lot of good people in high school, a lot of terrible ones. Had a really good geometry teacher, which, again, when you're in a class that it seems like you don't care a ton about, but the teacher is really great, then yeah, it works. And is a great teacher. So yeah, good teachers. What else we got? Favorite teacher. What was your style? Oh my god. I had a style in which I think in my middle school years, I was emulating all the things that I saw industrial bands dressing like, and where I saw punk and skater people, whatever. I just had this amalgamation of extreme and metal and stupid styles. I wore a lot of black because I was tough. Or I thought I was really tough. I didn't shower a lot. And then I guess by the time I got to high school, girls were more of a thing. And girls, it turns out, they care. You're a novelty to at least then, to some extent, if you're the weird whatever guy. And also, it was just a lot of work, I feel like. And I remember at some point reading that thing about Einstein having 10 of the same suit. And I was like, that sounds like a really reasonable thing. And so I streamlined. I still wore dark clothes and band t-shirts and whatever else, but I streamlined everything I wore so that I basically never had to think about what I was wearing. And I had like semi-dress clothes, and I had just regular clothes. And so I guess my style at that point was like professional gothic idiot, because that's what I looked like. I had a big, we wore trench coats. It was stupid. It was a time. That was my style, stupid. And a lot of dumb facial hair. No one's told you like not to do things with your dumb facial hair yet when you're that age, so you think you can, so you're like experimenting with it. And I fortunately, I think by the end had enough facial hair to make some of it work, but for a long time I didn't. I'm sure I looked really dumb. Sure, just looked like there was like chest hair growing off my face. So, you know, that was my style. Still stupid. My favorite shoes. And you know what? This is a testament. It's like teachers that last. I had these. I still have them, and that's how great they are. They were black leather paratrooper boots, and they were great because it was like an industrial zipper on the side. So instead of like having to like spend an hour lacing your boots every day, I found these things, and they just would zip up on the side, and they were perfect, and they are perfect, and I still have them. They're like the consistency of suede leather now. But those were great. I think those are my favorite shoes by far in high school, and surprisingly comfortable. Lots of ankle support, lots of heel lift on them. Favorite thing to eat for lunch? I loved all school lunch. I will say this till I die. This is the other time machine aspect of this whole high school internet quiz. If I could go back, I would go eat a ton of school lunch. I loved everything they made. And I think, you know, it's one of those things where you're hungry all the time because you're growing, I guess, and your metabolism is through the roof. And so I just absolutely loved school lunch. It was my favorite. It didn't matter if it was chicken sandwiches or those crap cheeseburgers they had, the little square pizza, or the the kind of like quasi-racist pizza that they had that they called fiestada. Which I think was supposed to be Fiesta pizza. It was just like, it was the same flatbread, but with like cheddar cheese and I want to say like refried beans on it, and maybe like a little bit of hot sauce. All the food was good. I loved all of it. And it was consistent. It was the same kind of food from when I was in junior high, or I would say even elementary school through high school. And it doesn't exist anymore. I think everything's like all gross and Cisco now, and it's the illusion of health, which isn't, somehow is probably actually even more unhealthy for you. I remember going to my kids' school and being very excited about eating lunch there, because in my mind, in my silly mind, the food's still the same, but it's not. And I think probably, I don't know, if I had to think back, the lunch ladies probably could all cook. And I know there was like things that they sold, especially at our junior high, that they made from scratch every day. It was a very different time. Favorite band? Jesus. My favorite band in high school. I think by my senior year of high school, I think when I was 15 or 16, I went to Berklee College of Music to fail at being a guitar player, and got exposed to a lot more jazz at that time. And so by my senior year of high school, these different like types of music that I was into were starting to sew themselves together. I was very much into Squarepusher. I listened to a ton of Charles Mingus. I listened to especially Charles Mingus' solo piano album. I listened to that thing to death. And occasionally I'll find myself like writing things. I'll be like, nope, that's just that one song from that album still. What else is a ton of Aphex Twin? The same thing I listen to now, honestly, the same crap. But again, was real into that, like, it was like, they would call it not lo-fi hip hop now, but it's the same kind of thing. It was beat oriented electronic music, turntable producers. So, DJ Shadow, Cold Cut. What else did I listen to a lot of then? I don't know. Industrial music still never went away. A lot of KMFDM. I love it all. It was great. It's still great. High school hair? I don't know. I think you covered that with like beard. I think I just had, I don't know. I think I just would just let my hair grow until it needed to get cut, and I cut it. That was my high school hair, which was a lot more than it is now. I feel like every time I do a live stream, it's just like a documentary on how much thinner my hair has gotten. And I know I have a lot more hair than some people out there, but Jesus. That's what happens when you do your best. Werner Herzog said this thing where he's like, I just try not to look at myself ever. And I do the same thing. Like, I check to see I'm in camera or whatever, but I don't spend a lot of time trying to take in what I look like. It seems, I don't know, worthless. Again, because of this thing I read by Herzog where he's just like, why waste all that time doing that? And then so when I'm doing this, I'm like, oh my God, especially it's like a light being like, oh man. So yeah, so if you would, this is what my hair was like in high school. And it's still like that on the sides, but on the top, I'm like 40. It's terrible. How old were you when you graduated? I was 18. I remember turning 18 that senior year and driving around and like buying lottery tickets and like smoking cigarettes and like doing all the stupid things you do when you're 18 and shouting at this girl I was in love with from a car window on my 18th birthday. And I could go to war. That was super exciting. Oh, Catherine. But that's it. That was the high school quiz, internet quiz. So thanks for sticking with me and learning about my high school misadventures. The other thing I was going to do today is just go over some crap that I found or bought lately, because that's what I do. I collect game books, and if you don't know what game books are, they are like they are akin to Choose Your Adventure. Choose Your Adventure is a type of game book, but they're books that aren't designed to be read. They're books where you play them as you read them. And I found an interesting one the other day. This one is billed as a game book that you can play again and again. And it is The Badlands of Hark by R.L. Stine. So everybody knows R.L. Stine from all his Goosebumps books. But this guy, R.L. Stine, he has actually like 2 pen names also. R.L. Stine was like the go-to, you need something written in an hour or a week or whatever, for whatever you name it. You need a Muppet Babies, children's book written, you need whatever. He was the go-to guy to get all that stuff done. And so this was one of the, one of the many books he was contracted to write, The Badlands of Hark. And this one's kind of curious, because this one has like your options. It's illustrated, which all the great ones are beautifully illustrated. This one though, the pages have numbers, and you go, okay, I'm at, let's just see. I get to 165. It's not even on page 165. It's just paragraph 165. You walk through the ancient gate and find yourself in a gray village of ramshackle huts, mud streets filled with beggars and street urchins. How strange to think that somewhere beneath all this poverty and dirt lies a priceless treasure, you tell yourself. You pull your remaining map. You pull your remaining map from your supply rack and follow it, and it takes you through the oldest, poorest section of the old village. Turn to 220, so then you go to that paragraph. And then some of these have you get points, right? Some of them you have decisions to make. Some of them are like fights. So it's an interesting variation on your typical kind of choose your own adventure. Love them. Other thing I found that was really weird. I collect these books too. I don't know why. I love the novelizations of movies, and what's great is there's a novelization of Johnny Mnemonic. I don't know if you guys remember Johnny Mnemonic, speaking of high school. But Johnny Mnemonic, Keanu Reeves, he's like a data courier, gets caught up in some mess. The strange thing about Johnny Mnemonic being a novelization of the movie is that Johnny Mnemonic was based on a short story and script by William Gibson. So it would have seemed likely that you would just have William Gibson write the novelization of the movie, but no, it's written by Terry Bison. So I'm sort of interested in reading this for, I don't know, a number of reasons. One of which is that I love William Gibson with all my heart. God bless you, William Gibson. If you're watching this, which you're not, you're a wonderful man. Thanks for writing everything. The other thing is, like, you're adapting an adaptation of an adaptation. So that's going to be, I think, an interesting part of it too. And also, I guess the final thing is the Johnny Mnemonic that everyone saw in America was kind of a watered down crap version. There's a Japanese cut of that movie, which is like 3 hours long. It doesn't need to be 3 hours long. I mean, it's a good movie. It's not a great movie. It's a good cyberpunk movie. But I'm curious if this novelization of Johnny Mnemonic is the American version of the movie, or it's, the real deal script that William Gibson wrote. This is a book I bought, speaking of choose your own adventure and things. It's called Games You Can Play in Your Head by Yourself. And it's supposed to be this book on these exercises to generate creativity. And I'm sort of interested in it. I got interested in it because, again, the format looks like an old Dungeons & Dragons book. The inside has these kind of, instead of like being one of those self-help books where it's like, why don't you manage the life giver, the manager, and the goat hoarder in your head. These are like, hey, the 8 realms of hell. And they are very frank about them and how they apply to your creativity and, ways to get through the world and doing your job and not getting creative burnout. It's got neat stuff like this. It's wonderful. So yeah, games, top 10 games you can play in your head by yourself by Sam Gorski and D.F. Lovett. This is also one of those books where you get like not an Amazon ad, but a Instagram ad, and you're like, oh, maybe I'll look at it. And then it turns out this was one of the ones where I looked at it. I was like, oh, right. This is good. And for some reason, I think Sam Gorski and D.F. Lovett do a podcast, but I don't remember. Doesn't matter. Finally, I got winning at karate, because who doesn't need to win at karate? This is not a practical book, but I did get it for these insane illustrations in it, which I probably intend on drawing or scanning at some point. Or not illustrations, but photographs. I just love how like ridiculous a lot of that looks, where it's like, show the bottom of the foot to the stomach. Yeah, there's just something very novel about the sequential animation or sequencing of like taking photos like this. Like if you look at a guy do this, then you can do it. And there's a lot of like kicks to the groin. Snap a front kick to the groin, react and think, and follow up with another kick to the face. Hopefully you yell karate at the end. Actually, this whole section, it appears to be about women defending themselves. Which, yes, that is a real thing. But most all of them, I don't know if you can see this, end with a kick to the groin. Here's my favorite one. You're seated, and an attacker comes. You raise the hammer fist, and do you want to guess what happens next? Punch the groin. I think, yeah, punch the groin all day. Men are dumb. This guy especially. I like how they get you out of the karate outfits for this. It's the same guy from before, but they just like put him in his sleazy clothes because he does look sleazy. Although right here he's attacking dudes too, so they're equal opportunist. Although I like the art direction in that. I like this the good man here. He's got on that professional leisure suit, and this guy, what's he doing with these acid wash jeans and cowboy boots and this sort of like open neck sailor shirt? Lots going on here. And actually, this is like in Krav Maga realm, because they're talking a lot about like just breaking people's noses and striking them when they're on the ground, and more growing kicks. Set your kicking leg down, turning your opposite hip towards the second attacker, and groin kick. Execute a front kick to his groin. That's how you win at karate. I got these books the other day. Some of them not winning karate, but these two for sure. When my lovely lady Jessica took me to the YMCA thrift store in Blacksburg, which is a kind of a crazy. It's one of those places where you're like, thrift stores aren't like this anymore, but this one is. Which is also where I found this for $1. It is a paint by number steamboat. It's beautiful. Just Take it all in. Pretend like it's coming down the Mississippi. A paint by color Mississippi. I can't, without that lens, it just doesn't, can't take it all in, but just know it's there and it's beautiful. And if anybody wants it, I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I did also find a number of records for me and Matt to keep an eye out for on future shows. What me and Matt try to do is listen to songs we've never heard before and try to find new things. So the Super Bowl Shuffle is something that every human is probably familiar with. I'm definitely very familiar with it. I'm sure you are too. It was a very famous thing. It led to the WWF making an album, which is awesome. That's really the best thing about the Super Bowl Shuffle. But this one goes a step further. This one has a Walter Payton little Kentucky Fried Chicken sponsored little single inside of it. So this is the gem that came with the Super Bowl Shuffle that I'm very much looking forward to listening to with my dude Matty PP. I don't know what this is. Old Ironside. I think this one, if I have to guess, it's either songs about this ship, but what I'm hoping is that it's the actual sounds of the ship put onto record. Again, I'm not going to do too much into these because that's what the show's about. Theme songs from Westerns, which I just love anyways. And I particularly got this one because it has the Ballad of Paladin, which, if you're not familiar with the TV show Paladin, or the theme song, it's also the song that they sing when they're walking down the tracks and Stand By Me. The I've gone, will travel, reach the heart of a man. I don't know what this is. There's a bunch of these. They got a bunch. I think they're polka. They're not in English. Don't know where they're from. I mean, I'm guessing Poland. Records seem great. Gonna figure them out soon. And then this one, and I'm so sad that the cover is torn up, but I got it anyways because it looks amazing. Is that the microphone working or just making the scene? Oh, is it working? Can you hear me, Catherine? I don't know. I hope it's working. I can hear myself. I assume maybe you can hear me. We'll see. If not, let me know. But yeah, this thing, this is Arthur Charles Handy presents Shad. I don't know what this is. It looks amazing. The thing's all torn up. It's from Oakland. I don't know what year. It looks self-published. ALC Records. But yeah, it's got Go For It by Shad. I don't know what year this is. I'm guessing it's sometime in the 70s. But yeah, looking forward to finding out what's up with Shad. Other things that we got. I don't know what this is either. This is a self-published tape. You always know that when the tape's on the, it's not an actual tape. And this is Sweet Peas Duds, Greatest Misses. Well, they should have been hits, in parentheses. Featuring songs from her album Eat Your Heart Out, Heartaches and Heartburn, and Is This Love or Indigestion? Plus a bonus track written in pen. So, another one. Soon me and Maddie will be back making shows for Radio Free Roanoke where we listen to new stuff. Is the mic? No, this is the real. No, it's not a prop. I'm really using it. But it also becomes a prop when I do that. Then there's Dan Reeder. I don't know who Dan Reeder is. He's on Oh Boy Records. But to find out what he does too. Along with New Schools, New Shoes, excuse me. I can't wait for this by New Shoes. This lady, Charmel, Artificial Heart by BW. Oh no, it's you again. Kids Incorporated, this album, everybody knows this tyrannical earworm. If you were born of my era. Whoa. This includes the Kids Incorporated theme song, the aforementioned one I just said about the KIDS, the theme to Ghostbusters, Drive. I don't know who wrote Drive. I'm So Excited, Cruel Summer. I Can Dream About You. Let's Hear It for the Boys, which I'm particularly excited about hearing. Jump, Don't Fight It, Against All Odds, The Warrior, Dynamite, When You're All Alone, and Hold Out for a Hero. So Kids Incorporated. This was a thing. This has always been a thing where you have famous or manufactured people covering hits. It became Kids Bop, I think, in our time. But even before Kids Incorporated, there was Kid Video. None of you guys remember that cartoon, but it was about a band of teens. They get sucked into the B-side, which is like a cartoon music universe. And then every episode they have to cover like a hit pop song of the day. Carl Starr, I don't know who he is, but we're going to find out. And the Bee Gees. God bless the Bee Gees. I don't have this record, so I bought it. But again, it features my all-time 100% favorite Bee Gees song in it. I Started a Joke. So if you haven't heard it, listen to it. I play it on these live streaming things, but I get shut down every time. They have like an algorithm now where it hears copyrighted music and they go, sorry, well, get the hell out of here. You guys remember when I tried to do Vinyl Church? That was going to be so cool. And if you listen carefully in the background, that's why there's this like super reverbed out music. Because if I play it too loud or without effects, they're going to shut me down. Shut me the hell down. Facebook. I get it. Everybody wants to make money, and you should make money off your music, but if I'm doing this on Facebook Live just for your entertainment, I'm really exposing a new audience to your music. So cut me some slack. And here's the coolest thing I found. This is a Chords for Fun, or the Thomas Electronic Organ. I think one of my favorite things about the history of recorded media and home music and our ability to listen to music, it's the history of storytelling also. Like on one hand, when you didn't have books, you had bards and auditors and people who would tell stories. It was same with music. Music for a long time was a folk tradition, which was passed down literally by people playing musicians or singing songs. Eventually, music became a thing where you had sheet music in your home, and you would have a piano or one of those little tabletop pianos or something to create music, something very rudimentary that everyone could get into. And radio came in, and vinyl and everything else, and things started changing for sure. One of the big sort of like hangers-on, but then something that became a harbinger, I guess it were, to other things. So this hold back from having a piano in your home and playing music yourself were organs, right? They had little like pump organs. They had it finally became little motor powered organs, and everyone had them in their homes. You'll still see them all over the place. I have two in my house. You can see one right here. But again, it was a way to have music when there wasn't a lot of music, or if you didn't have radio, or if you couldn't afford records or whatever. But then you got these like very fancy console organs. So they start as like very simple things like this guy, or the little pump foot organs, and then they become these crazy things with these like very rudimentary drum machines in them, and whatever else. And they were complicated, but people still want to use them. So what you would do is you would get a thing like this, the Thomas Electronic Organ. I don't know which one that Thomas made, but like this is a whole manual on... Oh, it smells like my basement. On learning to play this organ and all the doodads with it. Come on. So there's sheet music, but then there's also how to use all the bells and whistles on the organ, including like this instructional. This is your instructional DVD on how to use it at the time. Oh, that comes out. So I think this thing's amazing. I love instructional anything. I love anything that comes on formats like records that aren't entirely supposed to be music. You know, like you just don't put them on and whatever, like something that speaks to you, that actively engages with you. So I think that's amazing, and especially because, again, it's the electronic organ. Because the electronic organ, as you may or may not know, is the predecessor to the synthesizer and keyboards. And if it wasn't for these electronic organs and their weird kind of like samba, you know, pre-programmed drum beats on them, then we wouldn't have Squarepusher. We wouldn't have Sun Ra. We wouldn't have all the things that like came after this wonderful invention for your household. Like I have an organ in my house that was made by Sears, because again, it was a very popular thing. It was you would have people over, and Betty would recant the audience with at their tiki dinner party, and they'd sing whatever together, thing from Love Song or whatever, or Love Story. So that was like a thing. It was a thing forever, and it's neat when you find these things, because again, they don't survive too often. Those like manuals or records about the devices themselves are very disposable, or seem very disposable. It's because it's like, the organ breaks, and then what do you do with the records? You just get rid of them. So I was really psyched that I found that with the manual, with all the records in good shape. Thomas Electronic Organ. So we'll see what that sounds like soon on Matt and Will Listen to Records. Speaking of Matt and Will Listen to Records, I was trying to figure out what to do with that show. We kind of took a break. I've recorded a bunch of episodes. One with John Reburn, one with Justin. And I was going to get a whole stockpile of them before I start releasing them, so I wasn't killing myself trying to get them done each week. And they kind of like fell on the wayside. But it also seemed like a good opportunity to reinvent a lot of that stuff before I put it back out. I think it's really funny if we call the show Matt and Will Listen, because, we don't just listen to records on the show. It's a lot of found tapes. It's anything with audio. But Matt and Will Listen opens... Matt and Will... Is it Listen? Listens. Matt and Will Listen, yeah. Opens it up to, I think, a lot of funny things where people could call in and you could just tell us anything, preferably music related. Or you can... I think I like the idea of a live show where Matt and Will Listen, instead of us finding the things, people just bring them. So I'm trying to figure out how to do that going forward, which I think would be fun. And also, and I'm sorry, Matt, and I'm sorry for anyone who actually listened to that show or who wanted to hear more of them. These things like go in waves. I don't know why. It's the same with video. It's the same with everything else. I'm right in the middle of an art wave. I don't know why. That I just need a draw for this like last 4 or 5 months, but that's what I've been doing. And like my house right now is just littered with art stuff. I mean, like there's no single place where I don't have something laying around. And what I end up doing is I do these exercises, and then I just end up considering them for like a day, and then I don't do things like, edit more Matt and Will Listen to Records. But the current one is, so I'm gonna workshop with you guys. I was doing these color forms that then get inked. It's sort of the opposite of comic books, where you start with a drawing, then you ink it, and then you color it. I start with these large color blobs, and then I ink them. And that sort of precludes having a background because there's no plan. They're sort of improvised. So then I started adding these sort of, if these are very organic, like blob shapes, I was like, okay, well, what's the foil to that? Less colorful mechanic, background. So I don't know if this works. So I'm probably going to do like 3 more of these today to try to figure that out. I don't know. It's always evolving. I will figure out the exact thing for that at some point, and by the time I'm sure I do, then I won't want to do it anymore. I had been doing... Where are they? I think these are all older-ish. Here is... I did 2 1-minute drawings of Bo Foz, if you guys know Bo Foz. No! 2 1-minute drawings of Bo Foz, and then of JP. My dudes. But yeah, the color form things often kind of take like this. I usually start with picking out colors that I like. and then making them into upsetting forms. This one, I don't know why Facebook keeps telling me that I need to buy these these babies that that you know, they're like they're hyper realistic dolls of babies. I don't know. So coming from those, I kept looking at like baby arms and hands and how weird those are. And then there's always, I get a lot of messages about the dick stuff. These aren't always dicks and they're not always organs. But it's curious when you start putting features on things, what they end up looking like. And the associations we make with them. That one, I got asked, I guess Catherine, if you're still there, hello again. The other day was asking me if I draw my organs. And they weren't. I mean, I always think of those at first. I mean, they end up these like cartoon like nubs that come out of them. I think I really replicate organs, especially like when you sort of get into here. But I always start thinking of them as like chewed up pieces of gum, and then I add things to them, or candy. So yeah, there's that. The other thing I did a little while back that was fun. I don't know if these. And see, like these, for example, I feel like these look more like plants. I don't know. They weren't supposed to look like plants, but I think once you get that that weird curve, and this is really just me playing with standard shapes of like a French curve or whatever else, or thinking about a French curve, then they look like plants or orchids or whatever. And of course, there's Godzilla. Which I'm not. This isn't my favorite drawing, but I think I need to do another Godzilla, but a better one. I'll do you justice, Godzilla. Oh, while I'm going through these, this is a drawing my son made, and I love it. I love everything about it. I don't know what's going on in it. There's a lot of lightning and thunder storms, I think, and then there's this guy up in the tree who's wearing a mask, and I guess this person's dead. I don't know. I love that he signed the top also. He's got a skull shirt on. Catherine says, yes, just remember most of your body looks weird on the inside. So, well, and again, Catherine, this is where I arrived at like doing art in general. Was thinking about teeth a lot. There's those tumors that when you cut them open, they have like fingernails and teeth and hair inside of them, and that. I don't know why I guess because I'm like a 20-year-old boy, that just like blew my mind, and I loved that idea so much. And so a lot of these things have that qualia, that's a word, to them, that quality to them, where they are from the inside of your body, and they are like, you know, teeth are weird if they were anywhere else besides your mouth. Or organs, especially like, I think that's why we're weird about private parts and butts and mouths and all those things. Maybe they're not like the sexiest things to do sex stuff with, but like they feel that way because you're like, oh, you're not supposed to, like, those things aren't supposed to be. They're not like the rest of all this we see all the time. So I don't know. So I think some of that definitely plays into the way I end up drawing things. But as for fun, sometimes when I hit a writer's block or drawing block, I guess, I don't know. You know, like I found myself doing like too many of these for a little while, and I didn't really like the marker or the pens that I was using at the time. It was too kind of bold, and it felt a little too much. I don't know, too cartoony. Not that cartoony's bad, because that's my whole aesthetic, but like they felt too much like markers and not enough like pens. And so I started asking people for little 3-word prompts for artwork. A bunch of these are in sketchbooks also, which I don't know where the sketchbooks are. Sorry, guys. And that was kind of a fun shift because, again, it gave me an excuse to like use this pen up that I didn't really like, but also be productive. Melissa Mims suggested this one. Her 3-word prompt was Blue Tuesday feelings. So that's what a Blue Tuesday felt like in my mind. And we got your organs, Catherine, and the slime, which is my favorite thing. I don't know if you guys were big He-Man fans, but Hi, Brutus. He-Man had a slime pit. It was this, like, you could put your guys in it, and there was this skull that when you tilted it, it would just throw up slime all over your figures. So I don't know if you guys have picked up on this also, but just about everything I draw has a slime pit in it, because I love that color, and slime's just fun to draw. Super fun to draw. Kate Meyer suggested this one. It is training wheels, bubbles, and fireworks. Fireworks are hard to draw. Turns out I didn't really know how to draw fireworks. This was also a test. Again, these were good excuses to test things. This bugs the crap out of me. Probably bugs no one else. But when you draw over pencil with alcohol markers, you can't then erase the pencil. So I learned that by doing that. And these are also kind of neat because I started putting pencil work into, not underneath, but in addition to. What am I trying to say? Putting pencil in addition to like pen and ink and markers. Yeah, Princess Power was great. She-Ra was a thing for sure. And it really, a lot of this all goes back to like He-Man too. So John Baelish, my buddy and neighbor, his suggestion was Wooden Club Robot and Sadness. So this is the sad Wooden Club Robot. And again, incorporating or trying to put in some kind of narrative with improvised nothing meaning. So you got a wooden club, which to me sounds like true death if you're a robot. And maybe that's what the robot wants in the end, is to be truly dead. My buddy Nick suggested apathetic ringworm lawyer. This was a fun one. That's what an apathetic ringworm lawyer looks like to me. Ringworm, I guess, isn't a worm as much as I wanted it to be. You know, it's a bacteria. So that one I made the literal ring, which also kind of looks like a butthole, and put this gross mass inside of it that is also the scales of justice. He's got a tie on because he's a lawyer. And and if you look real close, this isn't clever. It was just money is outweighing justice. Carrie Garnett suggested skateboard trash can bubblegum. Again, these are always good excuses to experiment with design and layout. You know, the upside down, well, it's not even upside down, it's right side up, but the slime flowing upwards out of the trash can, which doesn't even look like slime. This one looks more like plants, but whatever. This is also a fun thing, because again, these gave me a good excuse to like experiment with stuff. Everything has a real hard black outline. It's pretty literal in terms of its shape and defined stuff. But if you're drawing a skateboard with a graphic on it, I was trying to think about how that would work. And so I drew these little cactus on here that don't have the same kind of defined shape. So that was the thing I was thinking about, and carried over in some other stuff. And then this final one, which I forgot to write what the 3 words were on the back of it. I'm sure it had something to do with a maggot. But again, a good excuse to experiment with like style and you know, this like stippling technique where you to create sort of what the sky looks like clouds a lot. And then there's this very I don't know if you guys know who Herman Miller. Herman Miller did Crazy Cat. Is that his name? Herman something. Anyways, these kind of Crazy Cat-ish buildings in the background and sort of experimenting with the ways they would look and work, things in like the distance. I got that fun little maggot right there. That's all I got, guys. That's all I got for today. Some art, some crap I found at thrift stores, and an internet quiz about high school. If you guys have any thoughts, questions, if you want some artwork, I got a bunch. If you got any 3-word suggestions for new stuff, I might start doing those again. So yeah, leave them in the comments, and I'll make them at some point, hopefully, if I get around to them. I think there was 3 I left out from the last round, so sorry, folks, if I forgot to do yours. I think one of them was Dream and Death and Desire, which my friend Nicole suggested, which thank you, Nicole. But maybe this brings up a good point. When I'm looking for things to make those little 3-word drawings out of, sometimes the more desperate they are or different, the better. Dream, Death, and Desire, while they sound like things, those are characters from the Sandman universe from Vertigo. So I could draw all those things together for sure, but it's really about combining the 3 things and making them into one thing, using that sort of shapeless or color form style at first. But you know what? Speaking of the 3-word thing, hang on, I got a thing. Hang on. I'm teaching you guys an amazing game you can play. That was taught to me by my friend Jonathan. Where everyone's sitting around and one person gives a prompt. They say like, again, you give 3 words. Where this one, it's really even kind of sillier. You're like, I want an elegant alligator, and then you go, and everybody starts drawing what they assume an elegant alligator looks like, and then you lay them all out, and the person who gives the prompt then determines how much time you have. So you may have 30 seconds, you may have 5 minutes, but then you draw these. Everybody draws little things. What's up, David? What's up, Juan Carlos? I love you. I miss you. You draw these little things, and the guy who made the prompt then decides who did the best one. I don't know. Some of these I don't know what the prompts are anymore, but there's still funny drawings. Here's one of Shrek that says "donkey out my ass." I don't know what that means. Here's a male robot saying "twins." Here's a cat chihuahua something that says "puis." So this is a really fun game. So if you guys ever have a bunch of people over, tear up a bunch of little pieces of paper, and then everybody sort of draw. See another one. I don't know what the prompt was in this, but we ended up with a little drawing of this guy that says "mysterious friends." These are great. These were a lot of fun. Again, maybe it was a cowboy dog. I don't know, cowboy wiener dog. But it's a great game for. Here's a guy blowing out smoke, going Bonnaroo. I think maybe this is the elegant or like a well-dressed alligator. But yeah, these are fun little games. So if you ever have the inclination or time, this one's great. I don't know what it is. It's just a pig thing that says "excuse me." So again, the rules are super simple. Whoever starts the game out goes, okay, I want to see a dog skull soul singer, and however much amount of time you want to give them to make the dog skull soul singer. That's a tongue twister. You can give them, and then whoever does the best one gets to start the next prompt. So enjoy that. I think that's where those 3-word prompt things came from. But again, drawing wise, if you guys want me to draw something that's a 3-word prompt, put them together. Leave it in the comments. Hello, Kenny. And then I'll draw it at some point. Hopefully, if I have time. And with that, I actually do have work to do. So I bid you all a good day. It's good seeing you virtually. And if you missed the first half, go back and watch it. We talked about high school. We talked about crap I found at a thrift store, and we talked about art. Basically, all the hallmarks of my life. So, folks, over and out. Thanks for watching.